All right, we're live. So happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome back to our NoCodeOps Live Community Show. I hope that you're safe and that you're doing well wherever you're watching this video from, whether you're watching us now live or in the future. I hope you're well. And I'm so happy to see so many people have registered to our event today, because if you've been following us for a while, you might have noticed that we've been quite quiet on the streams as we've been traveling all over the world, following all the amazing no code conferences happening this month. And if this is your first time here, we are an international community for people working in operations and leveraging no code tools like Zapier, Airtable, you name them, to scale up their career. So great to have you here. Let me see. There's already people chatting in the chat. So hello. I can see Werner is here from Cape Town, South Africa. Amazing. Great to see you here. And who else do we have? We have Andy from Austin. Hello, Andy. Great to see you here. And yeah, so today I guess we also have so many people waiting for this event because we're going to talk about a topic that is very dear to the community. It's something that is fairly new, not too new, but fairly new. As I remember, it hasn't been too long since the last time that I mentioned it in our newsletter and NoCodeOps. So, of course, we're going to be talking about Zapier and Zapier interfaces and best practices and everything else. But before I kind of get into it, obviously, I want to introduce you to our guest speaker today. So, without further ado, let me get Bryce Vernon into the stream. Hello, Bryce. How are you
What's up,
today?
Claudia? Doing well. How you doing?
Oh, amazing, amazing. As we were just chatting earlier on, like we've been traveling a lot, hosting meetups, meeting community members. It has been an eventful month.
Yes. Yeah, so fun. Hopefully you get some sleep soon.
At some point, yeah, at
Yeah.
some point, I'll try. I'll try to get there. And so, Bryce, you work at Zapier as the senior growth marketer. And what are we going to be talking about today? Tell us.
Yeah. So we'll get into it and kind of look at kind of where no code has been in 2023 and sort of where things are headed. And then also like how Zapier interfaces will help us get there. So lots of cool things to look at. We'll actually do some like live demos and interfaces as well, and obviously answer some questions at the end. But yeah, pumped to be here.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And, thank you so much for agreeing to be here today. Before we talk about, the history of no code, where no code is coming now in 2023, where is it going to go in 2024? AI, everyone is going to ask in the
Yeah.
community. There's always an AI question
AI.
coming in the Q&A. We might just as well call it Q and AI.
Yeah.
But before we start with that, I would
Yeah.
like to know a little bit more about you. Like, what was your journey into the no code space?
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll try to keep it short, but it started when I was 10 and I got a Lego set. I mean, that's really where it started. Maybe for a lot of you out there, right? Like building with Lego and just building things with your hands is kind of where it started. But beyond that, like I used Zapier and I was like an early beta Coda user, like doing kind of my own building and working for like tech startups and just doing what I could, right, and getting scrappy there. I ended up making a Zapier online course back in 2018. Ended up joining the Zapier team and was like on the support side manager there, where I was just like getting into the weeds with customers, right, and troubleshooting and growing the team there. Um, Took yes, Eric, Lego for life,
Lego for
absolutely.
life.
Yeah. Um, Took a short stint after that at Rite of Passage with David Perel and kind of ran no code operations there, um, and then did some freelancing and client work on my own. And then I've been sort of writing and building with no code through Build Anything, my newsletter, and that kind of led me to where I'm at today, which is back at Zapier, just building and sharing what I built and helping others do the same. So that's it in a nutshell.
I love that story, and this comment made me laugh. Bryce, I'll keep it short. Also, Bryce, it started when I was 10. I don't know what you're
Yeah.
talking about, top shelf gaming, because Bryce is probably like, what, 18? Not a long story at all, but I love the way that it kind of circled back to, being community member, supporter, employed at Zapier, then finding your own ventures and then coming back to Zapier with more expertise. That's a full round beautiful growth, and you're a growth marketer after all. So
Full
fantastic.
circle.
And yeah, I love seeing, so many people in the chat. So welcome everyone. And should we get started?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump
Let's
in.
do it. Let's jump in.
All right. Yeah, so like I said, we'll take a look at no code where it's been at, and then where we're headed in the future. Get a little excited about the future more than just AI, but and then we'll look at Zapier Interfaces, and some of the new products and sort of how it gets us there. So like I said, I had to throw this image in there, right? Basically, I would think most of us, right, are here because we love the freedom and the flexibility no code gives us, just like a Lego set. Your creativity is your limit. You don't necessarily have to dive into the code and like learn all those things to start building nowadays. With Zapier, like you get the entire internet as your Lego bricks, and you get to put them together. And that's always been at the heart of it, right? Is like let's build, let's create more. I feel like creation making it just humanizes the world. So that's kind of why we're here. And for all of you who are no code operators, which I would assume is a hunk of you, but the dream, right,
Just
is
about 1,000 in our community. Just about
yeah.
1,000. Yeah.
So
No
a
biggie.
1,000 and growing for sure. But yeah, ultimately, like the dream with no code is to build a magnificent Lego R2D2 that just like runs smoothly and has no issues. But like we all know, the reality is that it is likely duct taped together and might actually work, get the job done, but like automation is pretty fragile, right? And I think um, you know, pulling from like experience with clients that I've had, even like this past summer, right, where you're taking entire operations in Google Sheets and moving it to Zapier and Airtable and like all these other tools. Like it's fun, it's a blast, but like there's so many things that can go wrong. And so I think like what we need as like a community for the future and beyond is a few things. I think we need strength, visibility, and control ultimately, right? We want no code to be strong and the things we build to like stand the test of time, at least until maybe we scale out of them. I don't know. We want visibility to understand like what depends on what. Like if I've got Airtable automations and Zapier automations, it gets just really hairy, as I'm sure y'all can relate to, right? But then at the end, like we still want control and speed, just like Lego, right? The heart of Lego, to be able to like build without limit, see what's possible, and extend as much as we want. So shout out to Operator and NoCodeOps for helping with some of these pieces, especially visibility. So check that out if y'all haven't. So yeah, like
Shameless plug that I did not foresee. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
you got it. Cool. So I guess the question is like, how do you actually get those things? And to get them, you need automation to be woven in to the DNA of what you're building, right? The world we live in now is that like integration is expected. Like we expect it out of the box. Like that's no longer, oh, that's a cool thing. It's like we need that, right? And Zapier a lot of times fills that, or any other integration platform, right? But integration is expected, so automation and AI like become even more critical. And I feel like automation and AI are sort of synonymous now with each other in a lot of ways. Basically, we want to get robots to do more for us. So to get to this world we want to build, we basically like we can't let automation just be the glue anymore. It's got to be foundational, and that's where Zapier and the new products, we're really trying to build that foundation to give us those things for the future. And so I posted this on social, but I feel like this image, even for me, like kind of shows what the shift is, right? So we have been building with all these different apps connected together. The little lines, that's Zapier, right? It's kind of hidden. Um, it connects everything, but it's a little janky. Now, Zapier can be more of the foundational piece and have extensions out to the other apps. And I'll go into some examples and we'll actually go into interfaces to show you what I mean here. But this is sort of a kind of a helpful piece. So obviously, how is Zapier actually doing this? Like before, we just had Zaps, right? And anytime you're building out a no code solution or an app, any app, not just no code, right? You're going to have a logic layer. And then you need a user interface for people to actually click the buttons, fill the forms out, and do all that stuff. And then you need to store the data somewhere. A lot of times it's Google Sheets or Airtable, right? So Zapier has released these new products. And we'll dive mostly into interfaces, but really you can't like disconnect all three because they work together when you're thinking about a solution, right? So you got user interfaces now, you've got tables that store your data and Zaps that connect them together and extend out. So
yeah, and I guess the most interesting thing will be to actually see how we can make the most out of the database and the Zaps that everyone's using. So like you're already starting from a point where you know part of it, and so it's just like adding up the blocks and building up on that Lego.
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this is something like we all, whether you know it or not, like you're building in no code and you're doing these three things ultimately, right? Um, so yeah, I really want to show, and we'll go into like why replace like what you're already using, like what are the benefits and what does this look like in Zapier. So a few more visuals because I like throwing visuals together. I spend a lot of
I
time in
love it
Photoshop.
so much as well, and and I can see in the chat people are appreciating that as well. Like visual learning is always the best way to, you know,
Oh yeah,
get your knowledge in.
absolutely. 100%, 100%. So yeah, I'll take you through a couple examples, then we'll jump out of these slides and actually get into interfaces. So, like take a no-code job board. If you were to create this back before, right, you've got Webflow and Typeform as the front end, Google Sheets to store data, Stripe and MailChimp, like Stripe to take payments from people wanting to post on your job board, MailChimp for subscribers, Zapier's the glue. Now, Zapier interfaces can be the front end for your job board. The tables in Zapier is your data store, and Stripe and MailChimp can still be connected with Zaps as the logic. So it simplifies things, right? Just take it your basic lead capture. Like this is no code 101, right? It's like you've got your WordPress website, you got like Gravity Forms or whatever embedded there. You're storing things in Google Sheets. You send an email notification via Gmail. It's all connected with the glue. Now all that can just be in Zapier, just to simplify it, right? And lastly, and we'll actually take a live look at an applicant tracker in a second. So same thing, right? Webflow, front end, back end, all that can now be in Zapier. So hopefully, hopefully that makes sense. And so,
Yeah, I can't wait to get to the Q&A as well, like, and after the presentation, because I'm already like generating some. I'm like, oh, I would love to see what that front end looks like. Or
yeah. So,
does he write the code? Like, yeah, I have so many questions already. Like, okay, you go.
yeah, awesome. Hopefully, I can answer them all. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see.
So let me go into interfaces. And the one piece I will say before I even go into interfaces, and we think through, and all of us kind of think through, like, what are the advantages of us doing this to like jump all in Zapier and like leave some of these platforms, not behind. We'll still be using them, but like in a different way. One special thing to note is that the Zapier team has made tasks in Zapier free when you add them to a table in Zapier, right? So there is actually a cost savings. Surprise, Zapier is offering a cost savings thing. So I know sometimes that's a hot topic, but
Oh,
yeah, so that's
What's
just like a
that?
nice fun
What is
thing.
it that I can hear? Like, oh yeah, make people.
Make. I've heard of make. Oh yeah. So all right, y'all. Well, let's just do this. Let me go ahead and
Yeah, and I would like
And
to know
here.
from the audience as well, like, has anyone here played around with Zapier interfaces already? Let us know how you're using them. If you have any use cases that you would like to share, I would love to hear from the audience as well.
That's a great shout. I'd also like to know. So let us know. Cool. All right. So we're gonna start here. This is kind of an unknown space in Zapier because we haven't pushed it much yet, but we have a bunch of templates, and I'm sort of like personally, my team is responsible for like building these out. So as we go through these examples, if you all have any ideas for templates and like apps, you kind of want to see what is it going to look like built out in Zapier, like shoot me a DM message, just get a hold of me and let me know. And our team will build it out. So I'm here at zapier.com/interfaces. This is live. You can see it today. And I'm going to go down and show you what that applicant tracker actually looks like built out in Zapier. So here it is right here. I'm going to jump in and you can read about kind of all the pieces of it. And it uses all the different products. So we'll just click use template and this will build it out. So what's really cool about this, and I feel like, a lot of software has template galleries. And maybe I'm a little biased, but the coolest part about this is that it's building out the UI, it's building out the table, and the logic and the zaps actually turn on. One of them takes a second to turn on because it's validating things, but they get turned on by themselves, and you don't have to go into the Zap editor. Which, if you're like a process oriented person, maybe you like the Zap editor, but if you're like, the Zap editor, like I just want to not use that and still be able to use no code, these templates are a great way to like get started. And of course you can extend them as you want. All right. So the applicant tracker, here it is right here. We basically have a way to post a job. You can edit, drag and drop, super simple interface here where you can just add in all the details. You've got a form that is here just like you would expect. You can add in additional fields, all the things that you'd expect from a form. And then what happens is if someone fills it out, they're going to see a thank you page, and then you have an internal tool here to track the actual applicants. And so this is a Kanban view where they're going to show up. So that's how it's built from a user interface standpoint. And then the applications are going into a table, and that happens just automatically. You don't have to set up a Zap for that. And then there's just a couple of workflows, right? Like when a status is update, like if I'm going to go from, a new application to they're actually interviewing, right? Then I just want to update the date. Or when a new applicant submits a form, like I want to get an email, pretty basic stuff. But again, you can extend this as much as you want, So let's just do a quick, we'll do a live little test. So it just gives you a URL. You can just share this or you can embed it.
Love a little live demo with all
Yeah.
the things that can happen live. And we have a really nice, interesting use case in the chat from Eric. Hi, Eric. He says, I love interfaces. I built a tool to enable our trainers to send really pretty HTML emails post-training with a recording link. That's really cool.
Yes. Love it. Cool. So I'm just going to fill this out, and I have 100 years of experience. That's why I'd be a good fit. All right. So when I click submit, it sends me to this thank you. It's going to carry over fields from the form. So it just says thank you, Bryce. So as an applicant to a job, this is all I would see, right? It's pretty straightforward. And then from there, what I'll do is just open up the table so we can see what that looks like. I know this chat is focused around interfaces, but again, like I said, it's all so connected, right? So tables is going to show up here with the information. Really quick on tables, the best part about tables is the simplest thing, but you can add a button that triggers a Zap. that's just so simple. I feel like for whatever reason, and definitely Google Sheets, even Airtable, it's sometimes really hard just to get a simple button to be able to click and run an automation. Like that's all I've
I
wanted for
know.
years.
And that's when the community just went wild. Like everyone got super excited for that button when it finally came out.
Isn't it amazing what a button can do? It's like it's powerful.
We're very easily impressed as well.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so anyway, so yeah, all the applicants are going to show up here quickly and automatically, right? And then if I'm going to go back to the applicant tracker, I'm going to see that, and this is again a URL that you just save, and you have this as an internal tool. I can jump in and leave notes. Let's move this person on, and then you're dragging over. So the beauty of this is that it's simple. It's all in one place, and the other piece is that it's gonna also run the logic for you. So I'm gonna get the email right when the applicant submits a new form, and it's gonna come into my inbox with all the information here. So that's the applicant tracker. If I wanted to extend this further, right, I could add more zaps. It's all here, and it would be just cleaning things up, right? And if I did want to throw it into like an actual recruiter software, like that would be easy to do. But I think the beauty of interfaces right now is, yeah, to get something up quickly and have it be a foundation for like getting operations going, right? And
Mhm.
doing it in a way that's not going to be like a headache.
Trying to
So
remember where everything lives and yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Cool. So we can move on. Claudia, do you have anything that you wanted to
Yeah, no, well, I
throw out?
just saw this question that just came through. Can you talk about data and file storage limitations?
Yeah. So I am a growth marketer, not a product manager. So I know I'll try to answer as best as I can. I know this information is definitely out there that we can get to. So I know for like uploading files, there are different limitations based on what interface plan you are working with. And so it does go up from there. I think it's like um, 10 then to 25 megabytes. Um, but I would have to double check on that. And then of course with tables, like we're continuing to just build out like the record limit, and that's continuing to grow as well. So
There's one more charging
sure.
question. Are the two zaps that you have in that template the only things that get charged per use, or the backend workflow isn't charged? Would appreciate any clarification there.
Yeah, for sure. So um these these right now are just two-step zaps, which I believe as this stands would work under a free Zapier plan. Um, but yes, these are the only things that are charged according to how you might understand how Zapier charges, right? Per task. And so these tasks will run up as they're used.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
But that's really I can see the value already of like having all the things connected, because something as simple as an application tracker, could just easily mean like a form that lives in fill out or wherever form builder that you use, and then a zap that sends it to your Airtable or whatever other database you use, and then something else to like showcase your stakeholders, because they need to see it in a way that they understand it. And so make it pretty, make it front end, make it work. And so it's nice to see everything kind of like, I like to see that you're thinking towards just like congregating all those things and just like offering that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, just there's so many apps out there, right? Like if we can simplify just a little bit of what we're doing, it would be nice, right?
Yeah.
Without sacrificing the power. We need that still. So all right, so let's do a couple more.
Hmm.
Um, let's look at, so here's one. I won't go into the back end quite yet, but just to show you a little bit of what's possible. And then we'll actually build one out kind of from scratch. We'll actually build out an AI chatbot from scratch. Um, so here's just a personal one that I built out to kind of manage my newsletter. It's my content hub. And so I capture all my ideas from here. Whether I'm adding it into this form and it gets thrown down to this list here, or a Todoist task that I put into a certain project, as that throws that in here, right? Like I'm taking all the things and putting them all in here. Um, and the cool part about this, and this is where like anyone who's really into AI, right, is that with Zaps, you can connect into ChatGPT super easily. And I can take an idea and just have ChatGPT generate 5 additional ideas that are related, and they're just labeled AI generated. So I just know. Um, and I use AI in different ways here. Like once I do publish a newsletter issue, then it goes into this sort of excerpt review. And this is where I have AI generate the excerpt for me because, yeah, it's just so good at summarizing text, right? So it'll get thrown in here and then I'll review the excerpt. And if it looks good, or if I want to edit it a little bit, like, maybe I'll take that part off and then I'll just send it to Webflow. So when I click save, like it's going to be sent out. Looks like says something. Interface is still in beta, still in beta. So
That
I
always
gotta,
happens. Always. That's the moment I wait for.
yeah,
Always.
not totally. Um, but yeah, that still triggered a Zap and it'll be sent into Webflow. So having this as the foundation again, and then extending out is really the way to go. Um, so
Yeah, and
let's
this page here that you have, this is built using the Zapier front end.
Yeah, yeah. So you can have, a menu bar up top, like
Mm-hmm.
pages. You can have
Yeah, it's quite clean.
managed user logins as well. So a lot of that, yeah, like core front end UI functionality. And of course, like we're building out a lot more, so it'll be
Yeah.
exciting.
And there's an interesting question here from Joel. What are the primary factors that you think would push people relying on other table databases, solutions like Airtable, for example, to adopt a solution like Zapier Interfaces and tables when their current solution is heavily integrated with their front-end solutions like Stagger, NoLocal, Glide? So yeah, that's really interesting because yeah, that's how people
Yeah,
have been building until now. So I'm assuming like Joel is talking about massive like data and the migration just might be a little
yeah.
bit scary.
Totally understand. I wouldn't like get off this webinar and start migrating everything over right away. So um yeah, so I think, I mean, you bring up a good point though, Joel. Like there's a lot of like heavy database um functionality and features, especially about Airtable, right? That right now tables in Zapier just doesn't have like head-to-head feature comparison. Like you're not gonna like win every time with Zapier tables. What I do think though is that the future we're headed to, these new products that Zapier are releasing are gonna catch up. What's harder to catch up with is 6,000 app integrations in a very intuitive workflow builder. That's the part that's extremely hard to build out. So as time goes on, the value I think in building and starting to think about building in Zapier is going to increase in value. Um, but I think today, like I would empower like clients you work with, the team you work with, to run in Zapier, especially someone who's like interested in building out no code with your team. Like get them to create that form and that like kind of that lead capture flow and things like that in Zapier first, so that they can keep it simplified and understand how automation works, because automation is not going to just be for no code operators. Like automation
Hmm.
is going to be in AI, right, too, are going to be for everyone soon, right? And so that's my take on that. Hopefully
Yeah,
that's helpful, Joel.
yeah. Let us know, Joel. And I guess my question there is why? Like, why did you think about pushing these features, or Was it some sort of research? Obviously, you gathered the feedback from your community. Yeah, what brought you to like investing into these new features?
Um, yeah. So, I mean, just as far as these like new products are concerned, is that what you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Just like the direction you're going, because obviously Zapier is renowned for being the glue, the connector, and now you're venturing into a whole different kind of scary new big field. So
Yeah. No,
curious
totally.
to hear the why behind.
It's when a client reached out to me and they're like, "Hey, this thing broke." And I was like, "Okay. Where is that living? How does it all connect?" Like those little, you know, scratches that happen when you're building a no code where when you're excited, but as you build, things almost get worse or
Mhm,
more complicated, harder to work with. Like we need something that scales. If I'm gonna Unless I'm gonna go become a developer, we need something that will grow with the way I build in no code. And the best way to do that is if automation is more of the DNA and foundation, and the other pieces are built on top of it. Because right now we've lived in a world where it's flipped, where we've
mhm.
been building and automation is the glue and it gets too messy. So that sort of like personal conviction and experience, I guess, is why I'm so gung ho about it. And thankfully, Zapier as a team also kind of sees that.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's good to know, good to hear, sometimes why, because it's very easy for us to be judging, good or bad, like when big companies release new features or things. But I guess what's most important is to hear why they're doing it and what's the reason behind. It's not just like, oh yeah, we need to push something new this month,
Yeah.
just
The
yeah.
board told us to. Someone had a good idea. The billionaire investor. No. Um, cool. Yeah. All right. So yeah, let's jump into another example here, and then we'll actually build an AI chatbot as well. So let's go into this one. So this interface I built, which is embedding an AI chatbot, but more or less what I wanted to do is like help people find an AI newsletter that might resonate with them. So this is more or less a database, right? And instead of having a table where you're like filtering and looking at tags and all that, I was like, hey, let's make this conversational. Let's upload the data from AI newsletters and then let the AI chatbot recommend what works. So, I mean, it's basically like, hey, I want a weekly newsletter that showcases new tools. And it's like, great. And it gives me a few to look at here: Practical AI, Future Tools Weekly, Full Stack AI. And then the links here that I can go check out. So you can imagine this kind of use case actually can apply to way more than just finding an AI newsletter, right? Finding just about anything or finding FAQs on a website. This could be a great piece to throw into a landing page or something like that, right? Um, so quickly on how I did this, and then we'll actually build a chatbot so you can see it in person. But I basically did some web scraping of these AI newsletters and took out their featured posts and put that into a document and threw it into the chatbot so the AI knew what those newsletters were about, and then gave it a directive about what we're going to do. So I'll show you what that prompt looks like. But in this interface, right, you can see the raw list, or you can go and actually add your newsletter um, if you're writing an AI newsletter. So that gets thrown in as well. So yeah, just quick taste there, but let's go and just build something just like this out in Zapier, and then we might wrap it up and take some Q&A too. Does that sound
Yeah,
good, Claudia?
sure. Sounds amazing. Yeah. And I'm very excited that you're showing this use case because I think, did you have a blog article about how to do this in Zapier? Because
Yeah, yeah.
it's saved. I think it's still open in one of my tabs here because I was going to use it for one of my carousels on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, this is cool. And now I get to
Nice.
see it live, which is even better. So
Heck yeah.
awesome.
Love it. Yeah, AI chatbots they're super fun to build out. And just as an aside, and maybe this is interesting to you all, um, the the really cool thing about AI that's different than no code building or Zapier or automation is that with automation, you can kind of there's like a right or wrong answer and you can hit errors and you have to be able to troubleshoot, right? With AI, you're always taking a step forward to your destination. Like it might not always get you exactly where you want to go, but it's going to get you something. And that is like a whole different way to build and a whole different mentality. I think resonates with a lot of people. So it's cool that Zapier is kind of bringing those kind of two types of people, two ways of building into one. So yeah, just an aside. I thought that was interesting.
Nice.
Cool. So let's create one. So lots of templates you can kick off. I'll just jump in with this template we built. It's pretty generic, but
Would you
we'll edit it.
recommend starting from a template or from scratch? Like as somebody who's never played around with the interfaces yet.
Yeah, 100%. Because you can edit it as much as you want, but it's
Mm-hmm.
way more useful to see, especially with AI, like what prompts are being used, like what are they doing here, like so go and add whatever chatbot you want just to see the prompts too, and how it's built, and then edit from there. So that's what I'd say. Cool. So yeah, this just creates a chatbot. You can embed this in a website as it looks here, kind of like a page, or as sort of a script that's going to put it in kind of like intercom or something like that, like an actual
Like a
full-fledged kind of
widget.
chatbot, a widget. Yeah.
Mm.
So let's go in here and just do a couple editing bits here. So I'll just to recommend newsletters. We'll kind of mimic kind of what I built. What are you looking for? Cool. Easy enough, right? So you can just add in, prompt placeholder. You can edit the greeting, and then this is where you can actually decide what sort of prompt or directive you want to give the AI chatbot. So let's see. I think I have. Let me. I'm just going to copy what I had used for the AI newsletter one. So all I did here was just say, hey, like you're an AI chatbot, like this is who you are, and you're gonna like help people find and subscribe to newsletters. And then I do give a list of the actual URLs and their frequency, just to have that as like a grounding piece to the directive. I find that that's helpful. And then the other way to sort of ground what the chatbot responds with is in this data section. Let me save this really quick. You can see here, maybe this feature isn't quite live yet, but an ability to collect user data. Obviously, like kind of like a form, a conversational form. That's going to be
To
huge,
store. Yeah.
right? So we're going to allow that there, and obviously you can like then trigger zaps and do whatever else you want from an automation standpoint. So you can upload a data source, and so like I mentioned, I had scraped websites and grabbed all of the featured like newsletters or featured posts for these newsletters just to teach the chatbot. So if you were creating this for your like landing page, throw in all of your company's information, all of the FAQ, like all of that into a text file, and you upload it, and then you can decide, and I'll show you here in a second. You can
What
decide
to do with
whether
the
you're
data.
whether or not you're going to like restrict the chatbot to that data, or whether you're going to say, hey, if you can't find an answer, like you can make one up, that's fine, which it's up to you how you want to do that, right? So this, right, I would say, hey, when you can't find something, like just say you don't know, that's fine. So I don't want you throwing out something crazy, so you can just set that there, right? And then right now it's like, hey, user gets a response, like you can add an action, like they can click a button to run a zap. That's more right now is for like internal use cases because of just how you might set that up. I won't go into the weeds too much, but again, we're building out some more functionality so you can build zaps based off of a user's response, like someone on your website, things like that.
Sort of logic kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So that is, I mean, that's more or less it. Like you can authenticate your chatbot too, but once you have this, then you have this URL, and again, you embed this on your website or wherever else, and then you ask it the same thing, like looking for a daily um, one on tools, something like that. And sometimes it'll ask you, provide me a little more details. It's like, okay, um, up and coming and popular AI tools, please. And then it will go just search and find one. So the rundown AI, great. Might go subscribe
That's
there.
cool, and
Cool.
it's fairly like super easy to build. And do you think automation will ultimately be AI, and no code is just gonna branch out from it? Because I can see your
Yeah,
mental kind of process of like, okay, I'm gonna get the structure going in AI, and then it will use whatever no code tool to kind of branch out and build. So like what you were saying earlier on, like the blocks being built after on top of it rather than the other way around.
right. Yeah, it's sort of like AI has just introduced a new entry point to building. Like I think a new class of people, like a new group of people will be able to start using automation, whereas before it's like, okay, I hit an error, like something's not mapped. Like what is I don't want to deal with this, right? So introducing a language, like an interactive way to then build out automation, that's the future. That's it, right? Like that's where we're headed, to make it just easier for people. And then if you do want to dive into the weeds and get those Lego bricks or make a Lego template, like you can, right? If you want
Mm-hmm.
to. But it's just
Yeah.
more flexible, more fun and accessible.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that. There's a question from Andy here. Is there a limit to the amount of rows in an uploaded file?
So it is based on size. That's it. So at the moment, and it depends on kind of what plan you're looking at. So I'd have to go double check.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it doesn't matter rows. It's just like the actual size of the file at the moment.
Cool. Thank
And
you.
Claudia, I'm done with sharing my screen. If you want to pull it down, like
Yeah,
we could
let's
transition
put it
to
down.
more
Should
Q and
we
A's
open the
if you want to browse.
Q&A? But
Yeah.
thank you so much, first off, Bryce, for sharing your knowledge and your time with us today. I absolutely love the presentation, and I'm a kind of user that I get excited about new features, but I'm too scared to try them out by myself. And that's why I host these amazing live community shows, so that I can get the experts to come and show me what to do with them. And now I
Yeah.
feel more comfortable giving it a go myself. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Welcome.
to all the people here watching us still, I can see we still have a good amount of people watching. We can now officially open the Q&A. So drop your questions in the chat, and we'll try to answer as many as we can in this remaining 15 minutes. Awesome. And I also
Well,
have some questions that have been submitted in our form. So let's see.
cool.
I'm gonna start with those in the meantime as people
Yeah. And Claudia, I do have
head
like a
down.
bunch of links too that might help people too. So just let me know and
Sure.
send them in.
Yeah,
Send them to you.
yeah. Yeah, either send them to me or we'll send them in a recap later on,
Cool.
whatever you prefer.
Okay, that works.
All right, first question coming through. Can tables be connected to backend databases like BigQuery, Snowflake, etc.?
Yes. So I mean, with Zapier being intimately connected with tables and what Zapier provides with Zaps and workflows, whatever integrates with Zapier can integrate with tables. So you would just literally Google search Zapier integration, fill in the blank with your app. And if it shows up, or even if it doesn't show up, but there's other ways, right, to connect it through, um, then you can do that, right? The one piece that's not built out yet, which is coming, and it's one that I've like personally requested, is to add that relational piece, which makes something a database, right? So right now there's just like um, light relational pieces, but not really yet. So that's coming, I hope, soon, and we'll provide that. So we'll see, but hopefully that helps.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Let's see. Thank you, Andy, for your question. Let me get a question from the forum. How do you develop? This is a question from Ijaz. How do you develop a automation first mindset, and where do we go from there?
Yeah, great question. I mean, part of it is just knowing what's possible, right? Um, and tinkering around, like learning what is, you know, what can you do. Um, Once you have that, right, you start looking at processes and things your team is doing. You just look at it differently. Like you don't think like, hey, um, let's just get this thing across the finish line. You think, hey, what's gonna get this across the finish line for like time to come, right? And with less people, like that's kind of how you start, right? Um, and honestly, the most practical way to do it, I think, would be to kind of start building with Zapier's new products. Like that kind of puts you in that place where it's like, hey, there's always that reminder that this can be extended with a Zap. This can be automated with a Zap. And as time goes on, like the Zapier team, like surfacing more and more of those opportunities with Canvas. I don't know if y'all saw that. It's an alpha product that we've released too, which is like a visual diagram builder. It's like Lucidcharts that actually does stuff where it's like connected to Zaps and it can recommend steps for your like processes and things like that. Um, that's kind of what it means, right? Like having something built in, honestly, to the DNA of the tools you use as well. So
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your answer, Bryce. Very
yeah,
nice. I was just looking through the forum, and actually, there's loads of people here that, just like me, are just like very happy to learn about interfaces. They don't know much about them, so keen to learn more. So I hope that this event, I'm sure, is bringing you as much value as it is to me right now. So we're definitely serving the right audience here.
nice.
Um, a question from Jacob. What has been your biggest challenge getting automations off the ground? Nice question. I love these insightful questions.
Yeah, that's a good one. Um,
They,
just
they kind of go
generally,
beyond like the technical, right? And so this is why I love our Q&A with our community, because it's like, oh, always going a little bit beyond technicalities and more like
yeah, I know it's a good question, right? I mean, um, biggest challenge getting them actually off the ground. Um, Kind of honestly, I don't know if this answers it directly, but making sure that whatever it is I'm automating isn't going to just change tomorrow. Like deciding when to automate, I think has been the biggest challenge because as a builder, and maybe, hopefully a lot of you can relate, like you just want to build, right? So many people building stuff without like thinking about an audience or just building stuff because it's fun, but it's like, is that really like serving humans? At Rite of Passage, we had this value um, that was like process has to serve people, and if it doesn't, like it's just not worth it. It's simple,
Mhm.
but I think getting out of the tech mindset and being like, what is this actually doing? Is this worth it? Is it actually repeatable? Is it worth automating? Those questions are kind of hard sometimes to navigate. So yeah, that's what I'd
Yeah.
say.
Thank you. And that links really well to another question that I saw, which was something to do. Oh, yes. What problem? Or let me try and phrase it in a different way. Because
Okay.
what problem? Because it says, what problem is exciting you the most right now? So I think what they're trying to say is that what kind of solution are you trying to solve that you're most excited about right now?
Yeah. It kind of changes every day. So let's see. Right now, um, honestly, I'm excited about. I am excited. Hey, I'm excited about AI.
Are
I'll
you
admit it.
excited? Do you
I'm
love
one
your
of them.
job?
Yeah. No, but I literally, I am excited to see like how AI pans out. Like we know it's sticking around, it's disruptive. How's it actually going to help me get my stuff done? That's what I'm most excited about. I want to be able to leverage it not just for fun. I want it to do stuff. And to me, that's what I'm most excited about is how it marries automation, because automation is the doing, and AI can kind of like get us there in some way, but them together is that's what I'm most excited about. So we'll see kind of what happens, but that's where I'm at.
Nice. Thank you. And an interesting comment. I think this is going back to what we were talking about earlier on. One of the biggest
Yeah.
challenges I experience is that people question the reliability of using automations to connect the apps.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. That's like I mean, APIs have come a long way, which is awesome. I remember back like early days working for a social media startup, and it was like working with the Facebook API and like analytics weren't matching up. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this is a nightmare. Come a long way. But at the end of the day, like you're sticking together apples and oranges in a way. And it's, it can be tough. Yeah. So I hear
Hmm.
that.
And of course, we have a question about comparison. And so, how does Zapier compare to or competition? I thought it was uh, a comparison. How does Zapier compete with Stacker and Softer?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've used Softer and Stacker, not a whole ton. Obviously, I think that when it comes to building out all those apps, like Softer, especially, like has so much power. Obviously, they're connected into Airtable, which helps as well because Airtable is powerful too. Um, but again, the biggest piece is workflows and automations, right? I mean, Zapier's bread and butter, but if we imagine a world where the apps are doing more of the things for us and they're connected to my entire ecosystem of things I'm using and they're not just held within a platform, like that world, that's that's the world we want to live in, where it's like all really connected, strong, and there's visibility there. So
Yeah.
just kind of harken on what I've been saying, like that's where it comes into play. And then, with Zapier's new product specifically, as they continue to build out features and things like that, I do believe there's going to be like an actual um, cost benefit and to doing it. I don't know exactly what that'll look like, but I think that's going to come soon too.
Nice. Thank you. And it's always tricky to answer those questions because it's like, we're all, and I find it myself as well in the world of community. So I'm always trying to advocate for collaboration and how can we make this web, better together, you know,
Yeah. No,
because
and I
we're
do.
living in it. So,
No, absolutely. I do want to say something about Software in that light. Like their new like AI generator app thing is super sweet. Like that, I love that concept and that idea. And even for doing something similar in Zapier, like I know Zapier released something like that where it's like you can type in what you want to automate and it'll kind of like
mhm.
give you a zap that you could do. So I do love seeing stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's inspirational, and ultimately it leads to a growth. So whoever is providing it, I'm sure there's no like hard feelings.
Yeah.
Question from James. Let me check the time. We've got 5 minutes left. So maybe might be the last, or we'll see. What's the best bang for buck use of interfaces? That's a phrase I hadn't heard of before. A best bang
Sure.
for
Yeah.
buck.
Yeah. Bang for your buck. Yeah. Um, yeah. So, I mean, I think the quickest route to value in a lot of ways is building out an AI chatbot because it's just like we got a whole team dedicated now to that, and it's gonna, yeah, it's just super useful. Like, go build some chatbots for your projects because people I think are going to expect more of that in the wild. Um, But then also just like any workflows where you're like spending like tasks on sending things into Google Sheets or sending anything into like a simple Airtable. If you send them into tables, they're free. So to me, that's like the clearest way to answer that question. So form to tables, that's it at the moment. That is for sure, right? But there's so much more value you can get out of it, right? That if we're just talking kind of nickels and dimes, then that
Yep.
would be it.
Cool. Well, thank you. That's quite another topic that is sort of interest for many. So yes.
Sure.
And last question here. How can no-code experts join Zapier? From Eric, who I'm assuming is quite interested.
How can no code experts join Zapier? In what way? Join the effort of
Join the team.
automation? Join the team? I don't know. Keep using Zapier. Write about it.
Impress
Writing's
them.
great.
Yeah.
Coming from rite of passage, if anyone knows, it's like internet serendipity comes if you put your ideas out into the world. Just like go write something and you'll see what happens.
Amazing. Well, Bryce, thank you so much. I guess I do have one
Yeah.
last question for you. Like thinking back about your journey and like your circle, your full round circle. Is there anything that you would have done any different, or do you have any sort of advice you'd like to give to an operator today?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, anything I would do differently? I mean, definitely advice would be just keep building for fun. Going back to the 10-year-old self in you, right? Like, what were you doing that was fun? Like, you can do stuff like that today in a lot of ways. Like, no code allows for that. So keep having fun and then write about it. That's what I'd say. So yeah.
Nice. And is there anything you would have done differently in your
Done
journey?
differently. It goes back to writing. I would have started writing earlier. Writing is so great. It clarifies your thoughts. Like you get kind of like get inside your own head and you kind of figure out what things are working and what aren't. Um, but I would have done that a lot earlier, and that's about it.
Yeah, and I hope that's a skill that people won't just give up on with AI. But that's for another whole episode at NoCodeOps.
For
Well,
sure.
thank you so much, Bryce. Once again, excited, for you to be here with us today, and I'm happy that we got to connect. You're also in our Discord, in our community, so I'm sure we'll see more of you. And if anyone here in the audience, if you have any more questions and we didn't have time to ask them for you, please send them to me, send them to Bryce. We'll make sure to get you an answer. So
Awesome.
thank you everyone. And I'll be in Vancouver next week with the team. So if you're in Vancouver, let me know. Let's get a coffee. And if you would like to not miss any of our upcoming events and live streams, I just dropped a link to our calendar so you can sign yourselves up. Obviously, like, subscribe, the usual. And I wish you all an amazing, amazing weekend.
Cool. Thanks, Claudia. Thanks,
All
everyone.
right.
Great to be here.
Take care. Bye
All right.
bye. Bye,
Bye-bye.
y'all.